Okay, so negative energy, being aware of it, preventing it, dealing with it, and clearing it. And I've got Stephanie with me, and I'm so excited to have this little discussion because we've got different angles to look at this. So I guess first and foremost is being aware of what causes someone negative energy. And I think the more I've grown, the more I've realized how much I can be impacted or how sensitive I can be. And now I'm quite protective of my energy. So for example, if I'm going to watch news, I'd like to see headlines, or read news, I'd like to see headlines. I don't want to get stuck into a negative story. If I'm recalling an event in my past that happened that was so negative, and I keep going into the nth degree of detail, then I actually evoke and elicit those same emotions and even chemical neurotransmitters that happened when that event happened. So I am really focused on not focusing on these negative pieces in our past, in our lives in detail, unless we're actually going to solve the problem. And so looking and being aware of what causes this negative energy is really important. So even toxic relationships, toxic friendships, even just gossip. I don't know if you've ever thought about gossip in this sense, Stephanie, but like
everything is energy, and when we're engaging with people, the types of engagement, how much we dive into certain energies, they impact us, and we can take on the negative energy from gossip, and we can get stuck. It's almost like the energy spirals us in, and we can get stuck in the cycle. So saying with gossip, gossip we can feel, definitely. You can feel the negative energy that comes from that.
And maybe, I mean, I think in the past, there would be some topic and it would be interesting at first and you get pulled in, but then either during or afterwards, there's a sense of guilt, a sense of negativity that you feel because you just feel bad and it got you nowhere and it didn't really help and it's not really a fruitful discussion. So even just gossip can make someone negative. Now, for some people, it doesn't do that. So I think each person needs to be very aware of what makes them negative. So I can't watch movies with really horrible endings or a really negative movie throughout because I have, I don't know, the empathy that I have, I feel that it's happening to me or someone I love. So
you'll feel very deeply. You really connect into energy very deeply. So you're quite highly sensitive in that way. That's one way to talk about it. So some people can stay very surface on the energy level, and others get pulled in quite easily. So you identify that you're like that. I do the same. I also can't watch something that is incredibly intense without it pulling me in. So there's discernment. We choose where do we put ourselves in terms of the energy we expose ourselves to.
Right. And I mean, there's also a lot of people and friends that I have that actually they actually feel better when they watch a movie like that because they become kind of immersed with gratitude because they're in a better place than the character in that situation that they're watching. So they actually feel grateful to learn something that's, whether it's a positive or a real thing or not. They're learning something and they're actually seeing how bad it is that people can have it, and they actually feel a sense of gratitude. So they actually sometimes get positive energy from that. So it's really important for each person to assess how they're spending their time. And if you go and watch a movie or you spend 2 hours doing something, how do you feel afterwards? What's your mood? And the majority of people, sometimes after thinking about it and becoming aware, they start to realize that when they watch a comedy, they're in a much lighter mood afterwards than when they watch a thriller, for example. Yes. So even though people may think they're not affected, they actually do get some osmosis. They're absorbing some of that energy.
So it's interesting because you're bringing up the topic and the concept that energy affects us differently, and we have to be very discerning on ourselves. And what affects you in one way might affect me in a different way. So I think that it's so important that first we recognize that it affects us differently, but then how do we manage our own energy? And I think that's what we also wanted to get into today, is just chat about how do we then not to stop the energy, because energy is all around us and we're always going to be interacting with it. And there's always going to be some effect it has on us, but how do we almost mitigate the effects when it's more negative? and how do we protect ourselves? And then if we find ourselves kind of taken into that spiral, how do we clear ourselves of all that energy?
Right. Yes. So the first step is just to be aware and just really understanding how your energy is affected. And then the second piece is, okay, let's say you're in a situation and you find yourself in a place where there's a negative vibe, whether it's a place, a person, or a thing, you know, anything that you're doing, there's something negative. It's important to protect yourself. So one of the techniques, there are many, but I'm just going to mention one today, especially when you're with another person, and that person is either giving you some information that you don't really want to hear, can't handle, and I don't want to say can't handle, but just really don't want to hear in some way, shape, or form. And you need to protect yourself. And also create a little bit of distance, because when you're pulled in 100%, just like when I'm watching some movie, if I don't have that distance, so sometimes if I see something I don't like to watch, I'll go on my phone just so I create a little bit of a distraction. So
it's a barrier.
It's a barrier. And so this technique is also like a little bit of a distracting mechanism for a person to protect their energy. So one of the best advice that I'd ever been given by a healer and a friend is this concept of divine white light as energy coming through the top of your head. And so let's say someone is telling me a story that's a little bit gory, like a lot of blood, that sometimes is hard for me. So immediately I start to envision this white light. And also if someone's telling me maybe giving me a criticism that's maybe not constructive, but is a little bit harsh, or I'm a bit sensitive that day, I will do this as well. So I envision this white light coming through the top of my head, and it's divine white light. So it's coming from the universe, from God, or however you want to think about it. And it's really just giving you that energy. And then love coming out, either my heart or my stomach, to that person. Now I know it sounds funny to think of love, but that person is telling you needs love, and everyone needs love, right? So you're sending that love. So that's also a distraction mechanism. But at the same time, you are getting energy that's not your own, and you're giving it to them. So you're almost like a vessel through which you give them energy, and you're not absorbing any of that negativity whatsoever, because you're allowing and imagining yourself giving it to them. So you actually leave protected, like you've almost created this little bubble of protection that enables you to keep your own energy. And maybe sometimes I actually feel I have more energy after I've done that, despite what someone has told me, because this is really gathering, that positive energy from the universe. And so for me, this is an amazing technique to use. There's so many, but this is one of them.
There are many, and that is a really good one. And I've tried that technique of yours. I know it works. When you say that you don't get drained, it's because you're not giving all your life force energy over to the situation, and you are allowing more flow. Because very often, if we feel our energy being sucked, we block ourselves off, and we become quite tight and hard. So then we're just siphoning off energy without refueling back in, and imagining that white light is that energy coming into us. And that's probably why you're then feeling a little bit more energized at work.
Yes.
You mentioned the bubble, which is interesting, because I've got a great technique for once we've been in a situation, and it doesn't even have to be negative energy. It's actually something I like to do at the end of every day. So use it when you've been in a space where you feel depleted, where your energy has spiraled down, or just use it at the end of the day just to clear whatever is not yours. So what we like to do is we imagine a little bubble, and you just place it just outside of you. So let's say off to your left, and then you put a magnet in that bubble. And you imagine that magnet is pulling out all this energy from your head into that bubble, anything that's not yours. So that energy can be in the form of thoughts, feelings, sensations, memories, anything that's not yours. You just allow it to get pulled out. And a magnet is such that you don't have to do the effort. It pulls it all out for you. Yeah. And then what we do from there is all this negative energy, anything that's heavy, anything that doesn't feel like yours, goes into the bubble. And then we create another little bubble next to it. And we put a little filter between the two, and we put another magnet into that bubble, and we let that pull through any positive energy. Anything that because all this energy we've taken out of us, not all of it is necessarily negative. Some of it's just not ours. Some of it is ours. Some of our own energy will come out in the magnet. So then we have some good energy going into this new bubble. We release whatever's not ours back to the people, to where it came from. And any energy that is ours, we allow just to flow back to us.
Yeah.
And if you want to, then you can incorporate that with a bit of the white light coming in through your head, or you just put a little magnet into your head and a little magnet into your heart. I like that little approach too. And you allow the energy to be brought through your head and down into your heart, so that you can have the energy in your head and in your heart.
Okay. Yeah. It's a really also an interesting technique as well. Yeah. So that's nice. And then, and this is after you've been in a situation where you've had negative energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
In a situation where you've had negative energy, or even I find at the end of a day, you know, when you've had a whole day of interacting with people, we are energetic beings. We can't block ourselves off completely from all the people and places we interact with. So it's really powerful that at the end of a day, you almost do like a clearing, just a clearing out of whatever's not mine can go back, and let me draw back to me what is mine.
Okay. And how long do you usually do that for when you do that at the end of the day or at the end of a period of time?
It can be a few minutes. You know, you'll know this. The more we practice something, the quicker it gets. The quicker it gets anchored into us. So you can take it anything from a meditation of 15, 20 minutes doing this, right down to just a minute exercise.
Right.
And the visualization is the key. If you can visualize and just focus on the visualization and just breathe and just get present enough and mindful enough, then it can be something that you just do in a minute.
Yeah. And I think we don't realize also how many times this can help us. So like, let's say we go into a supermarket, there's a ton of people in a supermarket, and they have all sorts of flowing energies. And sometimes you can leave feeling a bit drained, and actually it's a good time to get in the car and just do that for a minute. You know,
good idea.
Like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are the types of discussions that we will be having at the Nourish Retreat, which Stephanie and I are co-hosting in September at Salt Alux Collective Hotel in Mauritius, if you're in Mauritius. Otherwise, stay tuned. There may be more. We are getting requests for more types of activities. Steph, I'll have to tell you about this on the side. And I think that's it. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to mention, Steph, about energy and in general.
I think that's a good place to leave it with. I don't want to overload people with too much. Just nice to have a little something that you can take away with and work with today. And, you know, we introduce these kind of topics in the retreat, along with all sorts of other things around food and around nourishing movement and healthy routines. And sleep. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
For now, don't overload them too much. So go home, get back your energy, do your little technique, see how you feel afterwards. And if it makes you feel good, keep on practicing them. And if you want to learn some more, get in contact with us and see if you can join us on our retreat.
Yes. Excellent. Thank you so much, and protect your energy.